Welcome to the Audio Insider podcast from AXPONA. My name is Lenny Florentine, and today I'm joined by Irv from Constellation Audio. What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Lenny. Thanks for inviting me.
Of course, we're going to have some fun today. We got a lot of products to talk about, but we're also talk about some industry stuff, I think. But before we get into all that, this is our first time meeting, so I need to know a little bit about your history. So how did you get into the hi-fi game?
Well, it's kind of a circuitous route. I actually started back in Colorado Springs, where I went to high school. I started in radio back in 1968, 69, 70, somewhere around there. And I've always had a great love for music. Went to college at the University of Colorado in Boulder from 70 to 79. And while I was working on my master's degree, there was an opening for a salesman at a part-time salesman at a stereo store in Boulder. And I thought, well, this could be fun. It would be a good opportunity for me to get some equipment, make a few bucks, and see what happens. Well, as it turned out, I was fairly successful in the sales business, and my field of study, which was philosophy, I figured more people were interested in buying stereo equipment than they were in Plato or Aristotle. And so there were more jobs available in sales than there were in people wanting to buy philosophy. So one thing led to another. I stayed in retail in the Denver Boulder market for many years. Then about 27 years ago, I moved from Denver, Colorado to Orange, Connecticut to go to work for the amplifier company Krell Industries. Worked for them for about a little over 10 years. Had a lovely run there, learned a lot about amplifiers, people, sales at different levels, from the retail to the manufacturing level. From there, I went to Magico loudspeakers, where I was the director of sales for that line and helped them get really to be a force. Exactly 11 years ago, I just started my 12th year here at Constellation. I had the opportunity to join this team as they were growing with some new product, and it's been a wonderful ride.
That's amazing. And so what interests me, right, because I'm a vintage audio guy, so you got to work in the stereo stores of the 1970s. So that's like prime stereo wars era. That's like your Marantz, your Pioneer, your Kenwoods, your Sansuis, all that crazy
Sold them all.
stuff.
Sold
right?
them all, baby.
How was that? Give me just how was it working in a what we would now call a vintage audio store, but like how was it in the 70s during the stereo wars when it seems like every month there was new, bigger, better, more wattage coming out, and just like everybody's reaching for the top.
And then I transitioned to the VCR game, where every 6 months there was a new VCR out with new programming. But the stereo side was always fun because people love music, and that's what got them going. And that's actually what keeps us going today. Some of our music tastes have changed over the years. And, I grew up listening to Bob Dylan and Peter, Paul, and Mary, but, quickly became a rock and roller with the Who and Hendrix there, and had the good fortune of seeing the Who on Keith Moon's last tour there. And we keep rocking and rolling. Like the Stones say, or actually it was Jethro Tull, too old to rock and roll, too young to die.
That's amazing. I could just imagine it was an incredible time with all these,
Back in the day, I had hair like yours, by the way.
Yeah, you did? That's why I wear a hat. All my hair is right here. It's on the beard.
Yeah. What's left of mine is on the chin, too. So,
yeah, it starts, I think at a certain point, it goes from here and then just starts dwindling down.
Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm just getting an early start on that. So, So yeah,
it was a good time though, because people love music, and music was part of the spirit which makes us who we are. And now it's fun when I have the opportunity to do shows like AXPONA. One of the fun things is turning people onto new music and having people turn me onto new music. And I'll come away from AXPONA with a list of CDs that I have to get right away.
So if you had a mixtape that could only have 4 songs, what are we looking at?
Okay, good question. Good question. I can tell you that one of them would be Bach's cello suites. There would absolutely positively have to be something by Hendrix uh, there. Uh,
Love a
you
little
know,
Voodoo Child, you know.
what's that?
I love a little Voodoo Child. When I
Yeah,
hear that at
Voodoo
the
Child. I'm
shows,
thinking of
you
Machine
know,
Gun or Purple Haze or something like that.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm a wrestling guy, so they used to
okay,
Hogan used to come out in the NWO with to Voodoo Child. So
all
whenever I hear
right.
Voodoo Child, I just start doing the Hulk Hogan, back in the day it was crazy.
I'm kind of an Americana guy. Towns Van Zandt. I've had a crush on Emmylou Harris for probably 45 years now. Anything that she does, Poncho and Lefty would probably be one, or a song that takes me back from Boulder to Birmingham. Uh, and I don't know, maybe something Keith Jarrett and Charlie Hayden for uh, to to chill with.
Yeah, no, that and you play this kind of stuff when you go to the shows. You guys enjoy playing like a
I
playlist
play
in it.
all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
One of the things I like to try to do is I don't like to play what I call audiophile crap, which is
yeah.
stuff that's really well recorded, but after the first three bars, you go, I don't want to listen to this shit. I want to listen to music. But one of the things that we try to do is we try to find music that's well recorded that people want to listen to, and maybe expand people's listening tastes and expand my own listening tastes. There. So that's part of the fun that we do. I have some reviewers that always want to come by the Constellation Room to hear what we've discovered. So I kind of have a core group of tracks that I know always work. And every show I try to come up with something new and different in a variety of genres.
So how have you seen like the hi-fi landscape change since the early 70s to now? I mean, that's 50 years.
It's aged. You got a bunch of baby boomers like me that are aging. However, part of it is we're starting to see a next generation coming, the children of and grandchildren of people my age there. And part of our responsibility is to keep it interesting for them. I think the resurgence in vinyl that younger people have rediscovered has been a fun part of the journey the last 5 or 10 years there. And one of the things that we'll be doing at our room in AXPONA is there's a wonderful company from Japan called TechDOS. And they're one of our partners at AXPONA. They make turntables that go anywhere from probably the 10K range, and you can keep adding zeros into their turntable
You can just keep
range.
adding zeros. Just
Yeah,
keep on
just keep
adding.
adding
Just
zeros. It's where in the six figures you want to stop. They're a
okay.
wonderful company. They're nice people, and they make a great turntable too. So we're going to be doing vinyl for part of our regular rotation. The other thing that we're going to be doing at AXPONA, we're going to try something different. From Saturday afternoon, I think it's from 3 to 4:30 in the afternoon, we're going to have a vinyl session. And what we're going to do is my colleague from TechDOS, Morifumi Hirata, he's going to start it off, and he's going to talk a little bit about the TechDOS turntables, and we'll play a side or two uninterrupted of just one of his selections. Then I'll talk a little bit about Constellation. I'll talk about our preamp, our phono stage, and our amplifier, and we'll do the same thing. And then for the third half hour, we'll bring in our Chicago dealer, Albert Sportis from Precision Audio and Video. He'll talk about the speakers that we're going to be using. We're going to be using the Magico S3 loudspeakers. And one of the things I thought is we might have some other interesting vinyl, or maybe some of our guests will have some vinyl that they want to hear on a really nice system. So that third half hour is going to be kind of open to see what happens.
That's great. You just talk about all the products and just have fun listening to vinyl and have a good time. I mean, that's what it's all about anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, sometimes some people, Murphy's Law says if you're playing vinyl, somebody wants to hear CD or streaming. If you're
Well,
playing
that's exactly how it
classical,
goes.
somebody wants to hear rock and roll. So you're playing rock and roll, you'll get some pompous guy walk in and go, "Do you have any real music that you can play?" Uh, there. So we're going to try to keep it interesting.
Oh, that sounds good. So, what kind of products does Constellation make? I saw a picture of you where you're standing with like, I don't know, 10 amps and just like all kind of components on pedestals, and it looks like
Yeah,
a wide variety of stuff.
we do.
Uh,
We're
so what
really
kind
in
of
the
stuff do you
amp.
guys have?
Well, we started about 15 years ago, and it's an interesting company because the company is based in Australia. And what got the company going is the owners of the company said, wouldn't it be cool if we could develop a brand that was really good at making electronics and the breadth of electronics? Because, you know, in this industry, there are some really smart and talented people. And typically, they're really good at one thing. Somebody's good at phono stages, somebody's good at amplifiers, somebody's good at preamps. And the owners of the company thought, well, wouldn't it be really cool if we could come up with an American brand that was designed and manufactured in the US that could take advantage of some of this great intellectual capital that we have in our industry, and we'll tie it together. We'll do all the branding and marketing and selling of it. And so we put together a team of people uh, in a lot of different disciplines, from metallurgy to circuit board design to software to preamp design, phono stage design, some very well-known figures from the world of amplifiers. And they put together a series of product that we started out. And the way the name came about is quite interesting. And that is, if you look at some of the people that we worked with from the start, every one of them was a star, if you will, in their own right. But if you take a look astronomically at a group of stars that are a coherent whole, they become a constellation. And so that's how the name came about. So Constellation came about 15 years ago, and we really got started by building big ass heavy amplifiers because, in this industry, if you want to get noticed, it's go big or go home. Well, we went big and we got noticed. And over the years, the line has expanded to the point where there are now four, really five series of products in the line. And uh, what we're really excited about at AXPONA is we're going to be showing the US premiere of our next generation of product. It's what we're going to be called the Series 2 products. So right now, our entry level products and our amplifiers start in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, and go on up to six figures. And the different series of products all have amplifiers and preamps. One of the series has an integrated in it. A couple of the series have phono stages in it. And so last year in Munich, we had the launch of our first of our next generation product. And it was launched in Munich. We've shown it in Asia a couple of times, but this will be the first time that the public in the US will get a chance to hear it.
So, do you have like, does one designer, you say you have a bunch of designers, or at least this is how it started. You had a whole bunch of like well
We
known
still do.
designers. So, do they each design a certain kind of component, or do they each design a certain series? So, like your amp designer does all the amps?
We have different people that are specialized in different fields, but it all comes together because it's a global economy. Now, if we need software, we don't need a software designer on the premises. We get the software program, we get the circuit boards, we build a lot of those in house. We do all of the final assembly just north of Los Angeles, in a place called Newbury Park.
So, and is it the entire? So you have one, two, three, four different series,
Yes. And
and
actually, there's a new amplifier coming out that'll be a fifth one. That'll be a flagship amplifier, and that too is built in Newbury Park.
and are you releasing a second series or a second iteration on multiples of those series, or is it one specific
Yeah,
one?
great question. We've had four series of product going from bottom to top. Inspiration is our entry level. Revelation series is our mid level. Performance is a step above Revelation, and our flagship product had been the reference series. So far, what we've done is we've introduced the Inspiration series and the Revelation series. The new Performance series and the new Reference series will be out later this year.
So the ones you're showing at AXPONA, is that going to be the Revelation?
Exactly. So this will be the Revelation Series 2. And what we'll be showing is the Revelation 2 preamp, the Revelation 2 phonostage, and the Revelation 2 stereo amplifier. And all of our amplifiers are available in either stereo or mono configuration. So depending on the customer's needs, at shows we typically do a stereo amplifier for two reasons. Number one, it takes up less space. Number two, the aesthetics of the room dictate that a stereo amplifier is really the nice way to go.
So if someone was seeing your brand for the first time, like what kind of reaction do you get when they come in the room? What kind of questions do they usually throw at you? Or like, what is their reaction to like the systems that you have set up?
Hopefully it's positive.
Hopefully it's positive.
Yeah, well, that's a real good question. Generally, they say they like the music and they sit and listen. And oftentimes, there's kind of a symbiotic relationship between an amplifier and speakers, that some of the best speaker brands in the world use our electronics, and we try to show at shows with different speakers because we know that a lot of people, particularly in this segment of the industry, have a lot of, there's a half a dozen really top tier brands that people listen to. And oftentimes those customers will come in to hear what our electronics sound like. So what we try to do, the way I put it, Lenny, is we describe ourselves as speaker agnostic. And by that I mean, regardless of what speaker brand you have, if you have good electronics and a good source, the electronics, the amplifier, will allow you, the listener, to hear what the speaker designer wants you to hear from their speaker. So, for example, this year at AXPONA, we'll be using the new Magico S3 loudspeakers. And it's a speaker that we've worked very well with in the past. And a lot of their customers are Constellation customers. And so people will get a chance to hear how our amplifier does with their speakers. But, the fun thing is when people come in and they'll say, I've never heard this speaker with your amplifier. I've never heard your amplifier with these speakers. And gosh, it really sounds good. And that's part of the fun part. That's part of the growth part of what we do.
So what's the difference so you're releasing this second iteration of these. So what did you guys upgrade? What did your designers kind of do in moving on to this next series?
There are quite a number of differences. The first thing that most people will notice when they walk in the room, particularly if they're familiar with the Constellation brand, is the brand has always had a very nice silver look to it. And the first thing you'll notice is there's a different finish, what we're calling Stardust Gold. Some people will call it a champagne finish, something a little more muted. So there's a visual cue that, hey, something different is going on with Constellation. That's the start of the cue, and that leads to a dialogue as to, like you just said, what did you do that's different? And we made a lot of changes. It actually took us five years to really get the line to where we were comfortable with it. And the first thing we did is we changed the power supply. So all of our units use what we have called a proprietary Constellation switch mode power supply, which, to translate into English and no jargon, it's a much more efficient power supply. It's a much quieter power supply, and it's a power supply that in our amplifiers allows us to give 20% more power to the same size chassis there. So from a customer's perspective, they can look at the amplifier that we'll be using in AXPONA and say, well, what's the difference from my perspective as a listener? The quantitative difference is last year's version, what was called the Taurus amplifier, had 250 watts per channel. The new Revelation 2 stereo has 300 watts per channel. So there's a 20% increase. So more power.
So where do you see this going in the next, 5 to 10 years, the hi-fi industry as a whole? You guys have made some subtle changes over the past 5 years, and you guys have, been in development for, building products for a while. But where do you see like the high-end hi-fi industry going in like the next 10 years?
Well, I think you're always going to find that niche. One of the things that we are doing is we are trying to let people know that yes, we make great amplifiers, great preamplifiers, great electronics, but more than that, we make a product that can realistically be considered part of the luxury goods market. That for people who want to have something in their home where there's a pride of ownership, where they look at something and go, that looks really nice. And boy, how wonderful does the music sound in our home? So we're a fun thing to have. And it all starts with the quality. If the quality's not there, everything else is just window dressing. So we like to have nice window dressing. And that's one of the reasons why part of our design team is the industrial design there. My wife put it very simply when I first started getting into this business. She said, if it's going to be in our living room, I want it to look nice. When I got started in this business, 45 years ago, if it was an ugly black box, it was an ugly black box. As long as it played rock and roll, that's okay. But, in this day and age, if you've got a product that performs the way it does, the way ours does, and is priced the way ours does, it's important that, to quote my wife, that it looked pretty.
Yeah, and I think is that like you guys have a very simplistic design, right? So some of them have screens,
Right.
but they're very, simplistic. You have the new Stardust Gold. Do I have that? Is that right?
That is correct.
Hey, there we go. Look, I remembered. Or champagne, but that's what I would have said before you told me that. But
you drink champagne while you're listening to Stardust Gold. How about that?
Right, exactly. So, they're very simplistic designs meant to look good in, any living room or music room. But, you can tell it's a high-end build. And you said it's built in the US?
Absolutely. All of it, 100%. Whether it's our entry, quote unquote, entry level product, or least expensive product, or our most expensive $350,000 a pair amplifiers. They're all built in Newbury Park, California. And by the way, it's interesting that talk about the industrial design. The people that do the industrial design for us in the chassis also have done work for people like Louis Vuitton.
Wait, have I been pronouncing that wrong as well?
What's that?
You spoke very French there with that.
Mais oui, monsieur.
I could never say it in that way.
Louis Vuitton.
Yes.
Merci.
I've been saying it wrong all these years, just like everything else. But that's part of my thing.
I learned a little French in high school. I had to learn a little bit more to get through graduate school. And as I tell people, I speak enough French to get into trouble, but not enough French to get out of trouble.
I thought it was just some guy named Louis.
Yeah, Louis.
I thought it was just Louis Vuitton and he made purses or something.
Well, he does, but he also, if you look at the stores, they've got some very fancy metal work as part of their layouts in some of their stores, and that was all built by the same people that do our work. He does it for us because he's passionate about us. We have a very good relationship with him, and it's kind of a little diversion for him, if you will, but he's done all kinds of industrial design for hotels and restaurants, and he's got quite a portfolio.
This is the most wife factor hi-fi that I've ever heard of. If you have something designed by, I'm just going to say Louis Vuitton, but like if you had like, that's just, hey, that purse that you like so much, I was thinking of getting a stereo designed by the same guy. What do you think? And I mean, come on. That's it right there. You could that's the sale. So how do you, when you have people get these, different levels, how do you see the path of somebody that maybe starts with your entry level series and moves up to the next step? Like how do you like
It's a
define that
slippery
path?
slope. It's a slippery slope. And one of the things that our dealers do is you can do comparisons. You can take the same piece of music and play it on different levels. And as you move up the chain, you'll hear more music, you'll hear more depth, the voice will become clearer, more focused, you'll hear the ambience of the recording venue there. Uh, it will hit you on an emotional level as you move up. It's, one of the pieces I've become very fond of a pianist by the name of Andras Schiff. And when we play him, he does a lot of Bach stuff that my wife likes. And one of the things she notices is not only do you hear him play the notes, you hear the notes decay nicely. So that's part of, as you start off, you can hear that it's Andras Schiff playing the piano. And eventually you'll get to the point where you can say, particularly if you have the knowledge of who he is and what he's doing, that it's Andras Schiff playing an 8-foot Steinway grand piano in Carnegie Hall. That's Lenny, that's how I got started in this damn business 45 years ago. Is I kept saying, well, this is good. What's better? And you trade out one piece of equipment and you get better speakers. And you go, well, those speakers are pretty good, but what if I put a better amplifier on them? Wow, I could hear the bass when Springsteen's going or when Clarence Clemens is really nailing that saxophone. I could hear that energy because the amplifier is able to take control of that loudspeaker. And you go, holy crap, what's next? And, like I said, I started in this business in August of 1978. I'm still doing it. I'm still having fun.
Yeah, and you've been with, a lot of well-known companies and and now with Constellation, I can't wait to see this, product lineup at AXPONA cuz I don't know that I've ever heard it. I go to shows all the time, but I see a lot
Well,
of
that's one
stuff.
of the
I'm
reasons
always,
why we do these
you
shows.
know, I mean,
And
that's what it is. You get people who go for the first time and see your product for the first time, listen to it for the first time. And it's really fun to be able to compare because, like you said, it's almost like a drug when you get sucked into this. Is you get one thing and then you just are like, oh, I like that, but what about this? And then what about this? And what if I do this? And
part of it also, Lenny, is your the music that we share. We're connecting people with the music there, and so like if you've never heard uh, Constellation gear and you walk in our room for the first time, and I ask you, Lenny, have you ever heard Constellation gear? And you said no. Well, what do you like to listen to? I want to listen to Jimi Hendrix because that's what Hulk Hogan did. I got Hendrix on. You'd appreciate this. Years ago, I was at a show overseas, and in my show attire, I wear a suit. Okay,
I do
uh,
not.
and I had played the obligatory assortment of jazz and classical and a little bit of rock uh, and whatnot. And for my last cut, I said to the audience, I said, we've been playing some really nice music, and some of it you like and some of it you don't. But I've been listening to rock and roll for more than 50 years. I'm not going to stop now. I'm just going to put on a piece of music from from an American guitarist. He just has one name. His name is Jimmy. And I put on Machine Gun and cranked the sucker. And after 3 minutes, I turned it down. The whole room erupted in applause. Uh,
Wow.
so that's the kind of fun that we have there.
And it's going to be a fun time. I can't wait to come by and listen to everything and get
And
to see it in
music connects
person.
us in different ways. Like I remember I was in Portugal one time, and a lot of the European audiences are much more in tune with classical music, particularly the ones that go to shows. People go to shows. And as I was talking to the group of people, and these people are fabulously interested in what we do and the music that we present and the equipment that we have. And I commented that, I didn't speak Portuguese, and a lot of them didn't speak English, but we could put on a piece of music by Bach, and all of a sudden, the language that we have that is different, the cultures that we have are different, just melts away, and we can have a shared experience of listening to some good music together. At the end of the day, that's not such a bad thing.
No, and that's what it's all about, right? That's what connects us all, no matter where we are in the world. It's an amazing thing. When we go to these shows, there's people from all over the world. Like a lot of people, a lot of the designers are from Japan and all over the globe. And it's interesting, you don't always understand what you're saying when you're talking to people, but when they put on the music, like you said, that's all
it cuts through the crap,
Yeah.
It's what we have in common there. So that's where we're at. I'm happy to let everyone know that even though the line's only been out for about 6 or 8 months, we've already won some awards. We were product of the year for the entry level for our inspiration line, the inspiration preamp and amp from the Absolute Sound. We've been reviewed in England and here, and we're excited to be able to share this with the American audience at AXPONA.
It's going to be a good time. I can't wait. You'll see me there at some point. I'll stop by and
please do
get to check everything out.
And if you've got some music that you want to bring in, we'll have a turntable and we'll have CDs. We may or may not have streaming, just depending on the internet type of thing, but we'll definitely have a CD player and we'll definitely have records, and we'd love to invite you and bring some friends too.
I'll make sure it's a time when nobody else is in the room, because I'm known to clear a room with music.
Well, funny you mentioned that. I'm probably the only person in this segment of the industries that listens to what I call, I'll be clean about it, white country music. Okay.
I love white country music. That's
and do you know, like, outlaw country, Billy Joe? I got some stuff.
I don't know. That might be past.
Or people are getting cranky. I just put it on and they all leave.
I like the bar Southern rock.
Okay,
like Chris Stapleton and stuff like that.
We can go there.
There's a lot of good. But I'm like a pop punk, like 90s 2000s punk music. That's kind of my thing. And I put that stuff on people. You never know. I guess some people like to sit down because they're like, we don't hear this in any other room. So
and that's kind of what I like too. Is there's two things. I like it when people go, wow, I've never heard that in any of these other 40 rooms that I've been in too. And it puts a smile on their face. Or they listen to something that they've heard in 40 other rooms and go, wow, it sounds really, really good here. So those are the two responses that I always like to hear.
Yeah, you got me pumped up for it. It's gonna be a good time. I can't wait. Good. We'll have some fun. I can't wait to see you there and get to meet you in person for the first time, and it'll be great. I can't wait. It was great having you on the podcast today. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot about Constellation that I would have never known. I mean, and I learned some French.
Mais oui, Louis Vuitton.
I probably would still fail French if by what we've learned.
That's okay. You pass the music department. I passed the music is what department. You pass on, right?
That's right. That's all I have to do. I just got to pass the music department. I don't have to know how to say anything in French.
That's right. Just,
not my
crank it up, baby. Crank it up.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, hey, thank you, Irv. It was a pleasure having you today. I enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. Look forward to bringing you in Chicago.
Oh, it's going to be great. And for the AXPONA Audio Insider podcast, we will see you guys next time.